welcome to the Combatives Church, where we build ourselves through the martial arts, honor, discipline, and respect. Today's message is about the prophet or Saint Rickson Gracie. We talk all about family. Your family will define you, whether you follow your family or decide to do the complete opposite of your family. They will define much of what you do in your life. If you look at your life, look at how you have followed what your family wanted you to do. And when I say family, I'm talking about your mother, your father, aunts, uncles, grandparents. All of these people I refer to as family. How do these people want to move for you to move forward in your life? Also, say you had a person in your life that you hated. This person may have been an alcoholic, an abuser, or they just left and were not in your life. So you dedicated your life to not being that person. This is how, at least partially, your family defines your life. So that brings us back to our prophet Saint Rickson Gracie. Born November 21st, 1958, the third son of Rickson Gracie. As we know, Rickson Gracie Sr. and Rickson Gracie were heavily involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This is not a debate on Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is specifically Rickson Gracie, before anyone gives me flack. Rickson's father, Helio, noticed that he showed great talent, potential, at this early age, and started preparing him to be the next greatest Gracie Jiu-Jitsu fighter. This is our first huge influence on his life. Essentially, the Gracie family, and specifically Helio and Carlson, laid out a path for him in Jiu-Jitsu. There are many tales of the family living at home, fighting among the brothers and parents, sometimes, if the tales are true, for supper. The strongest and the most skilled survived and ate, while the ones who lost were left behind or ate last. The family he had here essentially laid out his training and skills for the next number of years. Through the guidance of his father and extended family, he trained, competed, and defended the family in challenge matches. His trust in the family allowed him to gain the skills in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in all its glory. So this is the example of the positive that comes from your family influencing your life. We next move into what Rickson does not want. And we see one of the first influences of something he does not want to be in his life. At the age of 12, Rickson went with his father Helio on a drive. He discovered that he had 4 more brothers on top of the 2 that he lived with. It was from this that Rickson thought less of his father in terms of being a husband and noticing how much these other children affected his wife. Helio's wife, who Rickson believed was his mother. Eventually it was found out that Rickson was not his father's wife's son, but a product of infidelity. And I quote from Rickson, "She was disappointed when she found out about it, and I started seeing a side of, I wouldn't call disrespect, but lack of love, lack of partnership that bothered me at the time. I didn't want a girlfriend that had that type of relationship with me. a weak relationship, of not knowing what I do, not being okay with the things I want, etc. That was not what I wanted for me in a relationship, and it was a reference for my future." End quote. So this revelation for Rickson, again, it affected how he saw, and it made him really think about the things that he wanted to do that were not okay in his life. For many further years after this, Rickson continued fighting, training, and doing all the things that a Gracie fighter would. As we move on in the years, the next major event for us to look at is him moving to the United States of America in 1989. Rickson was moving to assist his brother Horian in establishing their first jiu-jitsu academy in Torrance, California. We see that the family pushing him forwards and having this idea would be a huge driver in his life. It was this major change that had him change countries and many other things. However, he was still working and dealt with everything with his family. I want to make a point here that the family aspect in Rickson's life appears to mostly be positive. This has propelled him to build Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools and has succeeded. And he was able to support his family and live a good life. I mean, the guy has 4 kids. His family would play a huge role in his life in the year 2000. He had 4 kids, and at this point in 2000, his son Rickson had moved to New York to pursue a modeling career. Now, Rickson was a good Gracie fighter. He had won the Pans 3 times and was exceptionally skilled. However, he wanted to pursue this modeling career. Unfortunately and sadly, he ended up passing away in December of 2000 due to a drug addiction. This disaster really affected Rickson. Now, as well with this, what had happened was Rickson and Rickson generally were in contact with each other. There was a time where Rickson was not able to get a hold of Rickson, and this was starting to concern him. He ended up having his brother Renzo, who lived in New York, reach out and try to find Rickson. It took weeks, but eventually it was discovered that he was found deceased by the NYPD. Rickson was nearly mentally shattered after having this happen. Quite believably, he ended up with having depression and other mental health issues. He ended up reevaluating his life. He divorced his first wife and moved back to Brazil. Brazil, where his family was, a place where his family would be able to support him mentally and help him work through this. He was evaluating and reevaluating how he had lived his life so far and how he approached fatherhood. He also ended up quitting training for a long time. His family tragedy now came directly into conflict with the plan from his family the entirety of his life. As Rickson said, I was completely confident in the wrong way. I could postpone a conversation with my son at will, and then I was surprised by my son's departure. End quote. Rickson was able to work through this and come out the other side of depression and sadness. The family plan, once again returned in how Rickson continued to live his life. As his son Rickson had passed away from drug addiction, Rickson did not want future generations to end up the same way as his son did. At some point in this transformation, he met his second wife, Cassia, and returned to Los Angeles with this new version and vision for jiu-jitsu. This new focus on training was, not unironically, the same philosophy that Helio had so many years before. The focus was on that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and by extension, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, was a social tool to give confidence to women, children, and physically weak individuals by giving them the ability to defend themselves. Helio, and a lot well as Carlson, the leader of the family, had a dual but complementary mentality when it came to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This social side was so key to the training. However, there was the marketing and testing side, which was the fighting prowess of their fighters and their ability to show just how good and effective this fighting art was. If/when the fighting side worked, then Rickson or the instructor would be able to push the social side as well. And hey, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot to be said about the ego side, that you have the best, or you are the best fighter, which is an absolute point of pride for the family. This new/old vision that Rickson moved back to Los Angeles with. The family again had this massive influence on Rickson chose to move ahead with his life and how to improve the lives of everyone else around him. Rickson, as of the writing of this message, continues to train individuals and fighters. He teaches people and they learn the values of Jiu-Jitsu, whether Gracie or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, its philosophy, critical thinking skills, problem solving, self-confidence, and the resilience to face challenges. I just want to make a point of this ego slightly and more showing to the positive side than seeing what your family's doing and going on different paths. In 2017, Rickson was, quote, awarded, end quote, his 9th degree red belt by Horian and many other black belts. Red blacks, red whites, and red belts. If you haven't seen this video, look it up online, Rickson Gracie, 9th degree red belt. I'll see if I can link it down below in the comments. Rickson put it on, gave a speech, but has not worn this red belt since that day. He said he put it in the safe and he was going to touch it when he was eligible. Even though he was given this belt, due to the restrictions on age and when you're supposed to get the red belt, he was not eligible for that belt yet. Horian replied in the video that, well, you have it now, you can change the rules. However, Rickson has yet to put on that red belt and wear it. This following of the rules and not making an exception for himself has made him beloved by many in the community. Prophet Saint Rickson Gracie shows us just how strong and important our family can be in your lives. In this case, wanting to be exactly like your family role models in many ways, and trusting them in the plan of your life can work out in many positive ways. However, being able to critically look at some of the other ways that your family role models are acting, you can absolutely try your best not to be like that. So, in your life, take a look at what those role models are doing. Do you have a father that loves you and spends time with you all the time, and you're trying to be exactly like that person? Do you have a family member that's dependent on substances that you absolutely don't want to be like? take a look and evaluate your own life. See the parallels between your life and Rickson's life and see where you can make yourself better. This is the Combatives Church. Of course, I have to do the YouTube thing, like and subscribe. But let's improve your life through the martial arts. Honor, discipline, and respect.